Third years, hello and welcome. We are in a special position here. Because of this pandemic, I came to realize and thought, what do we have to do to get you up track for the fourth year of biology? Of course, you all know that in VWO 4, everything will be in Dutch. Um, and we also did a lot of topics, starting from the first year that we did, or we started about what is biology and we looked into microscopes, until the last topic we had about evolution and genetics. So in total, we covered around 12 or 13 topics. And this is chapter 13. It's called Animals and Plants. And actually, it covers most of the biology we did in the last 2.5 years. So what I ask from you is to read this chapter, study it, and see if there are topics in this chapter that you don't get, because this is um, practically all the useful information you need to start in VWO 4. Let me show you a bit. Um, Last lesson in school, Felix was there, for example, and Akshay, you were also there, and someone else. I don't quite remember, excuse me. And I showed them some skulls. And those skulls, they are suited for a certain type of animal, an omnivore, a carnivore, a herbivore. And I thought, hey, I saw these pictures before in the book. Same goes for this one. This is in chapter 5 for the first years. And this is in chapter 1 for the first years. So I found out that all of these actually are somewhere else in the book. So that means that this is the whole collab, the whole collab of everything in the last 2.5 years. If you skim through the words, most of it you might recognize. You know it has to do something with energy, and here is photosynthesis, and here's water and minerals and carbon dioxide and glucose and oxygen. Starch, proteins, fats, vitamins rings a bell to chapter 7, I hope, last year, where we talked about digestion. And when you skim further, you see something about camouflage. There might be some new things, so like endocytosis. We never really talked about that, but there are like vacuoles in cells, and they contain different stuff. There's a respiration, so it has everything to do with cell metabolism, energy harvesting, and um, with breathing and respiration. Respiration in the big sense of a word. And we skim to that one, we see diffusion. You might remember from the deodorizer I sprayed in class and the tea bags. We see gas exchange, and now it's gas exchange in gills, but of course we did in the lungs. And with concentration differences in osmosis and diffusion, you might remember that. And it's also about evaporation of water due to photosynthesis. Not all the water is needed, and it's expelled through the stomata in leaves. You might remember that when doing chapter 5 in the first year. It's about alcohol production, which is an anaerobic production. I don't think we covered that, but see, most of it is really clear. And then this one is about transport. So you might remember the chapter we did about blood and about circulations. So you see here this double circulation. Remember, it's the pulmonary circulation, the systemic circulation. It's talking about circulation in different kinds of animals, and of course, you know there are different ones. But also circulation in plants. You remember, right? We've got fascicular bundles, phloem and xylem, and primary growth and secondary growth. We all did kinds of experiments with that and looked it up under the microscope. So this is also quite straightforward. This is about homeostasis. It was in all of those chapters, but not as a chapter on its own. So it's about keeping balance. Remember, we did something about diabetes, and we did something about the hormones of glucagon and insulin. And of course, you remember the homeostasis of the menstrual cycle with GnRH, FSH, LHH, estrogen, and progesterone. So this is also about surface area. I remember you guys finding it very difficult at the start of last year. So study it, this chapter, and then tell me what you need for a good start in VWO 4, and I'll explain that to you again. So you might find still the topic of osmosis quite difficult, or the topic of maintaining those balance of hormones. And section 5 is then in connection of all those other four, and it's taking some examples from the animal kingdom, the mangroves, and about malaria spread, which is closely, of course, related to the spread of SARS-CoV-2, which causes the disease COVID-19. In 13.6, there's an extra VWO section about some interesting theories about deep sea mammals. So mammalian biology, marine biology, I have to say, is quite different. And if you read this part, it's a miracle. It's marvelous how it works. So your goal for this lesson is to study it, catch up with your own ideas and minds about biology, formulate some questions, and the next lesson we can focus on that one, and I can get you ready for failure 4. Okay, thanks for watching, all of you. I wish you a pleasant day. Make sure you stay hydrated because it's really warm outside. I've just looked at the thermometer and it's kept already at 30 degrees. So it means there's a lot of homeostasis in your bodies going on while you're sweating away all that water to cool your body down to keep that core temperature of 37 degrees. Okay, this is biology again, I know. Right. I see you, some of you I see tomorrow in lesson. Others of you stay at home, stay in the shade, drink enough. Bye.